Canales hasn't answered yet. I'm not sure if the thing. Yeah, I've been talking to him on Facebook.
One
So
moment, mate, because we are live now, considering the
okay,
time.
sorry.
So that's okay. As I
Okay,
said, we are live. And you know what, Paolo? Go ahead. Give me your message.
yeah, okay, sorry. I'm taking the blame on this one. He's only on Facebook nowadays because he's been banned from Twitter like 5 times in the last year, uh, and but he doesn't answer every time of the day. So I'm not sure exactly if he's seen my last message.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so maybe if he sees it, he'll probably join. So do you want to start on this theme a little bit later and do something and talk about something else, or do you want to start right now?
No, we can start on this scene later. That's okay. For the time being, yeah, sure. Not quite sure what though, because I kind of had this one set up.
Yeah.
Um, we could continue with the article. No, not article. The what was it called? The shit show from ABC.
Yeah, we're only halfway through. It's
Yeah.
like it's like you're trying to do a doctoral thesis on crazy Australian feminists.
Yeah, but the worst part is the most crazy one of them is Egyptian. For fuck's sake.
Yeah, no, I don't get these people. They're obviously intellectuals living in a Middle Eastern country, who the type of country that does not look favorably upon intellectuals who criticize the status quo. And then she goes to another place and complains about the status quo, where it's a lot where she has the freedom to complain and does not notice how much better she has it in the country where she lives now instead of the shithole that she came from.
Yeah.
I really don't understand this cognitive disconnection that the people they have from Muslim countries have when they go to Western countries. I really.
Yeah. No, it's beyond me, and somehow they get away with it because they talk left wing narratives. Sorry, I have to do this. Hi there, Richard. Hi there, Michael Keller. No technical difficulties so far, Richard. How am I doing? And well, as you can hear, Paolo is joining me on the live stream. We were supposed to get Ibai. Do I say it?
Yeah, Ibai Canales.
Ibai Canales. For the time being, he's not here, so we're not sure if he will join us later. Personally, I hope he will because it's always good to have new voices. Um, so yeah, I know that. I think Richard, you sent me the English subtitled version of that crazy Spanish. I think she's Spanish. Feminist, and we were supposed to talk about that one. I'm going to leave it quiet on that front for a while because let's see if Ibai still joins us, and if he does, then we can talk from that moment on. But for the time being, we may as well then continue with the how do you call it, the Q&A from November from 2019 because we only were halfway in. Paolo, will you join me on this side?
Sure.
Okay, then I'm going to share the screen so that you can see what the hell is going on. Um, there is a slight delay though. What you and I talk about will be a little later at the other people. So I'm not sure if you have a word on the stream with us before.
Mm,
So the chat, we see the chat
yeah.
because the chat sees what we do a few seconds later than
Yeah.
what they do. Okay, so you should be able to see my video screen.
Hmm.
Now, now I have to open the right video. Always good fun. So, oh, sorry guys, not technical difficulties as such. So everything is working, but unfortunately, the
Hello
guest
and
we were
welcome to
supposed to
Q&A.
have
I'm
didn't
Frank
hear
Kelly.
yet. So let's go put you there. Of course, that won't work.
Hello and welcome to Q&A. I'm Frank Kelly.
Oh, my
And tonight
friends.
we're in Melbourne collaborating.
Why can't I move you? This is weird. Okay, so we do have slight technical difficulty then. I should be able to move you. There you go. Hoppa!
Bunnies.
So, yes, those were my bunnies. I love bunnies. Just joined. What have I missed so far? Real Raven, nothing much. The guest that was supposed to come hasn't, so we've decided to continue a little bit
Yeah.
with
Yeah, let me just say that it's my fault. I've been talking to him, but he's only responding once or twice a day on Facebook, and the longer it takes for to get a response, then he may not have seen the my latest explanation or my latest or the Hangout link. So hopefully he'll show up. But if he doesn't, you can blame me.
Well, we're not going to blame you either. Come on. But no one is getting paid here. Everyone is doing this for fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would be nice if he were here. Hopefully he'll join in a moment. Hi there, Real Raven. Hi there, Ludicrous. I haven't said hi there, Ludicrous, by the way. Ludicrous, I saw your second video with the fencing thing. You have nice form, but you're very eager. It's for all of you who haven't seen it. Ludacris posted it on his channel. He has been fencing, and he's pretty good. But yeah, okay. Beyond that, let me see if I can find the starting spot. Well, Raven, I'm going to stay with Paolo for now because he may join, and if he does, then yeah. The idea is that we are going to not continue on this one, but on the other one, which I also have set up. So I'm sorry for now. I'm going to say no. You can't join here, but you're welcome to join in this chat. Let's have Paolo join in this Q&A one. Okay, let's see if I can share it. Here we go. Paolo, you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Affecting not just the, as you would say, the old white men in power, it's affecting the people in the communities who that has been their livelihoods. This is a period of great change we're projecting here and living through.
People are terrified.
As well.
This is kind of funny though. I'm not sure if you can remember last time when they were talking about what they wanted to do and how they wanted to treat other women. And now you have this remark. People are terrified.
It seems to be a common complaint coming from professional feminists that they're living in fear, and I really don't understand where it's always coming from. It's like I think it's I think it's part of their mental illness, that they're always seeing rapists jumping from the shadows and attacking them, but. Seriously, just try to live in the real world for once. I really have no patience for this type of comments. I
No, I understand what you mean, but it's so funny because people are terrified, but they completely ignore the fact that they are the fearmongers.
Yeah.
I mean, I one of the first videos I made on Modwain's channel was a response to a Danish girl who talked about how she needed feminism because she was genuinely afraid to go out on the street because of rape. And I'm not going to say Denmark doesn't have rape, because rape happens everywhere, unfortunately, but not in extremely high numbers. But she was really terrified, and I'm like, but don't you see that the very belief structure of your religion, because feminism is a religion, it's no basis of reality whatsoever in it, that very belief structure forces you to be afraid. And then you complain that you're afraid.
Yeah, it seems that the type of people who fall for this line of reasoning, they react more emotionally to this type of arguments, and they don't question, and it's like their view of the world. Let's say that they're used to having a normal life before they hear this tenets of feminism. And then a feminist walks up to them and tells them, "You are in danger of being raped every day at every moment." And they seem to be a little bit sheltered, and all of a sudden it's a big revelation for them.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, absolutely, they are being fear mongers, and they're not taking responsibility for the reach of their words.
And to me, it's strange. I guess strange is a good word, because it's because we see this in feminism, we see this in socialism, we see this in the ecological terrorism brought by the environmentally sound people.
Hmm.
Everything is based on fear. Don't you know the world's going to end in X months, weeks, or even years sometimes? Shit, I'm only 40 something years old. 40, I don't know, 47. I'm 47 years old. Thank you. And I have at least heard 5 different stories on how the world will come to an end within now and 10 years.
Hmm.
And every single time, they're serious. And I'm not sure feminism invented patriarchy, but they blew it out of proportion. And how do I.
Especially because we're talking about the most equal society that we've ever had in regards to male and female roles in society. So it's like yeah, it's
No,
a
we.
it's a fantasy world, and why would you choose to live in a fantasy world where only bad things happen?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, my father is Italian. So I'm
Hmm.
not sure how this is in Spain. But in Italy, there's a matriarchy. Well, government is patriarchy, but in family life, the mother or the grandmother is the boss of the family.
Hmm.
I'm not sure how it is in Spain.
Well, the Iberian Peninsula has always had a family structure that the man is head of the family and the woman as keeper of the family.
Yeah.
So yeah, of
So
course you
she's
do
the
have
head of the household.
since the grandfather usually died before the grandmother, she had a role as a matriarch that was worthy of respect inside the family unit, even if she was not the main provider, which is the job of the man.
Yeah.
Uh, so there was some expectation that the wife it's- would obey the husband in any type of family unit, but that doesn't mean that there was no influence on, especially because it was the job of the woman to raise the children. So
Yeah.
she was the one that informed their way of thinking. It's only with the industrial age and the beginning of mandatory education that the mother lost that role as a family educator and was thrust into the working world. That doesn't mean that women did not work, especially in the poorest classes. Everybody worked. In fact, my grandmother, who died earlier this year, she was almost 97. She was illiterate precisely because she had to go to work with the rest of the family. She did not go to school. So the notion that women did not work, that they had no social responsibility, that has never existed in human history.
No, and the whole concept that men are more important than women. I've never seen that. And history is an important thing. I like history. And I have not seen one example of Western history where the position of the woman is extremely bad compared to the average position of the average man.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
this is always being ignored. Um, Thank you for telling this one, Ludicrous. In all fairness, I never heard the one of the man being the head of the family, but the woman being the neck. Then again, maybe that's why they hung people to close off the neck. Too bad for the head, though. But no, I'm just kidding now.
Yeah, Real Raven also points out that it's the woman who selects the gene. So there's always there's usually a saying in every country. that you know who your mommy was, but you may not know who your daddy was.
Yeah, that's true. Women are the gatekeeper when it comes to the newborns. And then people talk about how men are terrible. Well, yeah, maybe. But yeah. No, but it's all based on fear. Now, I've done 2 streams about this one. One alone, one together with Real Raven. Now, I'm going to start with Paulo. Let's see if Ibai will join us. Then we go back to the original plan. But can you imagine you having a program on national television where you're going to berate everyone because everyone is silencing you? How are
Right.
you being silenced if you're on national television talking about how you want to kill men?
Uh-huh. No, they really don't understand what they're doing there. It should be obvious. How can you be oppressed if you are given if you're given a stage to say whatever you want and nobody calls you out on it?
Yeah.
Uh, I
No,
mean,
it's unbelievable.
I find it laughable. I would find it laughable if it wasn't for the fact that their words find an outlet in the audience, where even men will, because men are hardwired to protect women.
Yeah.
So if a woman says she's in danger, the man will respond, "Danger where?"
Yeah.
I will go protect you from it. Just point me where it is, and I will go take care of it. And you hide out here, and I'll come back and I'll tell you when it's over. So and and if you say that if a woman complains that man itself is a predator, how will man be able to protect the woman? That gives rise to the emasculation that we're seeing as portrayed in media, where the man must be shown as ineffective. It will be the woman who will protect herself.
Yeah. Which we know is a joke, it's a lie.
Hmm.
But they want to make it. What was it again? Someone said this not too long ago. Women are so powerful that they can do anything, everything, as long as they're not women. And this is unfortunately true. Look at all these feminists. Look at what all they achieved.
Hmm.
Now, name one thing that is particularly feminine on any one of those panels.
Hmm.
I can't find anything. I mean, I didn't look into it too deeply, but I can't find anything. These aren't, and I'm not talking about how they could be beautiful or blah blah blah. That's nonsense. But the role of a woman in a family, as you said, and this is true in Spain, this is true in Italy, this was true in Germany. Women rule the household. Everything beyond the door is man's domain, but women rule the household. And why is that? To raise the family. Not the
Exactly.
children, the family.
That
And,
is
and
exactly it. And anyone who has family in any rural area will still see that. It might not be as apparent in urban societies, but if you have family who lives in the countryside, in small villages, you will it will be apparent immediately that the woman is always in charge of organizing what goes on in the house, and
yeah,
the man has no saying, and will have to sit back and let the woman tell him what's going on.
yeah. Now outside his domain, inside her domain.
Exactly.
And this is being considered a bad thing? How? I mean, there's a reason that traditional role patterns exist. I'm not saying they're perfect, but there's a reason they are there. And what's that reason? They work
Hmm.
for both the woman and the man. Yeah, but that means the woman has to stay at home. No, that doesn't mean the woman has to stay at home. it means that home is her domain. But she can go have an education, she can go have a job, all those things. But by doing that, she needs to juggle her domain with her ambition. And this is the one thing feminism has never been able to do. And this is why so many feminists, once they get older and they haven't had children, they blame everything around them, and indeed sometimes they blame feminism for not having kids. Because deep inside, they want to basically dominate home. But they've been so hard trying to dominate men's areas that they forgot what their area was, that they forgot what their role is. And funny enough, we see this in men very clearly, because male suicide is rising at amazing paces still. But why is that? Because the role for men becomes more and more unclear. Mm-hmm. So feminism isn't only destroying the natural behavior of women, but it's also destroying the natural behavior of men.
Yep. There's another thing in the household where, when it comes to one common complaint is that men don't help around the house. I've actually seen that it's unnecessary for men to help around the house in most households, household chores, and it's even undesirable. It's the woman who knows where the clothes are stored, where the cleaning equipment is, how the cleaning equipment is meant to be used, even the proper tools for cooking. But that doesn't mean that man does not help around the house. If the wife needs help, she will tell the husband exactly what she needs, and the husband will help her.
Yeah.
And then there's of course the hard labor chores that women can do physically, like moving furniture, or usually dealing with electrical equipment, because men were once trained to be able to work with tools. That is not the case right now. I know a lot of men who don't know how to change a light bulb.
Yeah.
Uh,
Amazing. Amazing. And you'd think that people would be upset about that, but they are not. They're more upset about that. Oh no, we need more women in STEM. You know what? Get more women in STEM. But to get more women in STEM, they make it so impossible for men to get there. They're actually discouraging men to go to STEM education, to try and get more women into STEM field education, and they don't want to go.
exactly.
So who are we helping here? We're not helping the women, because the women that want to go to STEM can. But
We're also creating a society where by preventing men from going into areas where they excel, and forcing women to go to areas where they don't want to be. Intellectually, in terms of intelligence, both sides end up losing, and we create a more stupid underclass who don't know how to create things, or how to work the areas that they're supposed to do. It will be a society that will be easier to control.
yeah, and that's basically where we are now.
Hmm.
And more people are luckily getting, waking up, and it's scary to me, because I mean, cultures, societies, everything has a life cycle. History is based out of life cycles. It's kind of funny. I'm currently working through a book based on Oswald Spengler's The Death of the West, which is a history philosophy. Sorry, I can't find the right words. I didn't think we would go into this corner of the storyline, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But we see history comes and goes in cycles. Now everyone's seen the strong men create good society create weak men create hard times create strong men. It's a cycle, and this cycle keeps repeating itself. And as far as back in history as we can go, we always see the same cycle, and they're all blind to it. It's almost as if, yeah, but we want to do good, and people seem to have forgotten the saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And it's almost as if people have forgotten some age-old wisdoms, not because they're so smart back then, no, because they lived through the hard times, and we've forgotten about those hard times. And those cycles, I mean, back in the day, one of the cycles could easily last several hundred years. But with the fast internet we're having now, we, in our, sorry, in one day, we get more different viewpoints, more knowledge pointed at us as an average peasant did 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago. In one day, we learn more about the world than people did in a lifetime. They learned other things. They learned how to be better at their craft or how to grow food or that sort of thing. But we get so much information and we absolutely box back to we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, it's a different way of view. When you have access to all the information, the best way to keep you distracted is to feed you more information because you don't have time to process everything
Yeah,
that you see.
yeah, and it's scary, to be honest.
Well, it's kind of the reason I kind of thought about talking to you about doing a stream where we criticize modern journalism because as a journalist, even though I'm specialized in talking only about about cars and the auto industry,
Uh huh.
you do see the patterns in the way that information is constructed, and and when the way that we consume information on the internet, nobody really got used to it, and the first ones to react were the people who had an economic interest in journalism. So it's going to end up creating a new type of information consumption that is not useful in any way, and nobody has any specific idea on to turn it around. So we're kind of stuck here for the time being until we are able to create a form to disseminate knowledge in a way that is useful to society in general. But so far we're kind of stuck with the clickbait.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because our media is traffic driven.
Exactly.
So the more
And
traffic we get, oh look at that. This is, and I'm partly I'm doing that too, but I'm bad at it because of course I want my channel to be big. I want this channel to be big. Oh, I want so much traffic. Yeah, but yeah, no, we live in a traffic driven um, consumption society at this moment.
and I kind of noticed that the first casualty was local news, since the traffic needs to be based on the news production needs to be based on the amount of clicks that you get, um, and the way that information distribution websites like Facebook and Twitter work is that the more of something you consume, the more of something you will see. Um, it will be universal information that will reach the audience first. So people are going to know something that may actually be innocuous, but happens on the other side of the world, and they will not be paying attention to what's happening right around the corner. Right now, a few years ago there was an attempt at doing a website for my hometown, and but they never managed to get any decent amount of traffic. And our local newspaper uh, has been shut down once. Took about a year and a half to come back. A year after coming back, they had to merge with an advertising leaflet in order to survive. And after merging with the advertising leaflet, the advertising completely disappeared. So trying to get information on my hometown is actually a lot more difficult than trying to find out what's going on with the Hong Kong protests, for example.
Yeah, but
And,
I mean, I live in the Netherlands. You'd think the Netherlands are a reasonably free Western society. You live in Spain. Did you know that the Yellow Vest protests in France have been going on for more than a year now?
yeah, we actually knew because one of the leaders is Portuguese, so he has been appearing in Portuguese television. And the guy who almost lost an eye
Yeah,
is of Portuguese descent, so
but but
he appears
but
on Portuguese television, and they made sure that there was a follow up.
yeah. Well, I'm
But
glad for
yeah,
that.
I think it's
But
more the German speaking the German speaking world and the English speaking world were not paying attention.
no,
But
well,
in Southern Europe, we're still a little bit aware of what is going on, but not by much, I admit.
it's yeah, scary. I mean, I use words like scary a lot. I know, but it is. There is something inherently dangerous in the fact that we are being like sheeps led to a slaughter. We don't know what's going on, and if we try to look for it, we don't find what's going on.
Hmm.
It's kind of funny because, and this is going on for some time now as well. I mean, I went over to DuckDuckGo. Did I go over to DuckDuckGo? Because a lot of information I couldn't find on Google. But now I notice in DuckDuckGo it's sometimes difficult to find information too. So where do you go?
Hmm. You need to work at it.
Yeah, yeah, you need to continuously grow. And I found, and I need to do this more, I need to download stuff more.
Hmm.
Because, and I'm not talking YouTube videos and that sort of nonsense, but no, articles and stuff. Because today I'll find something, and in a week from now I want to make a video about it, and I'm going to look for it again, and it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. I'm subscribed to academia.edu, and there's actually a good choice of free articles on university on yeah, stuff that's made at universities, and but most of it is kind of useless because uh, I once remember downloading something about comic books, and now uh, I've been getting recommendations to download other comic book related studies, and even those they're full of how the superhero is a reflection of white identitarianism and stuff like that, and it's kind of ridiculous. So if you just read what's put in front of you, you're going to have to miss out on a lot. You really need to make sure that you're looking for the things that you want or the things that you need, and that means going to page 2 on Google searches sometimes or
Yeah,
7,
or 7 or 8. But this is the thing though. I mean, I don't know how old you are, Paolo.
almost 40.
Almost 40. Okay, so you're a little bit younger than I am. A little bit, yeah? We'll keep on a little bit before anyone in the stream starts chatting. A little bit. You like cartoons, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When I was young, I used to love reading X-Men, Spider-Man, the Avengers, all those things.
Hmm.
And they always had some news in it, some societal news in it. For example, the X-Men, their main enemy was Genosha. At the time, Genosha was basically South Africa for mutants.
Yeah, yeah, I remember.
Um, and they fought against it, but they didn't want to harm the people. It's just that they didn't like the apartheid system. And it was brought really well. And therefore, you put the link between that story and the South African story. But what they never told you was that, even in Genosha, well, okay, the people might want something, and it's not nice of them to want a certain thing, but there were terrorists as well. And
Yes.
in the Genosha story, the terrorism aspect, because let's be honest, the X-Men were like terrorists in that country because they fought against the government, and they always tried to be very careful not to harm people. But if you look at the same thing in the real world, the South African thing, apartheid state didn't end because the government thought it was such a good idea. They were pressured by international communities, and they had terrorism within their own crowd. But that part of the story we never hear.
No, especially you'll remember that they built up Nelson Mandela as a liberator
Yeah.
and a hero. So
And he
you
was a
always
murderer.
so they're always cleaning up the role of the ANC on the way they fought. You might want to argue that when you have no recourse but violence, that you should expect violence to come naturally. But ultimately,
No,
there.
I understand that argument. But if we look, for example, before South Africa, in Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe was also, it was Rhodesia. It was controlled by the white upper class, and the black people, well, they weren't second class citizens, but they were disallowed for certain positions. So, yeah, maybe you could call it second class citizen then. I mean, but the government in Rhodesia was already talking with black activist groups on how to peacefully go from one state to the other. And then the international community started standing behind the radicals that wanted to overthrow the Rhodesian government. But these radicals were socialists. Now look at Zimbabwe now. It's a mess.
Well, I'm sure that speaking pragmatically, there was always a bit of a quid pro quo, which is economic exploitation of local resources, which still goes on in a lot of African countries. Even if they kicked out the European powers, they were simply replaced either by the Soviets at the time and now the Chinese.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
But
lot of a lot of the when we gave in, Portugal was the last country to get out to get out of Africa, and when we finally relented, it took a military coup to win the colonial war with our colonies in Africa. But when we finally gave independence, for example, to Angola, immediately two warring factions sprang up,
yeah, and it became a shit show.
and it became a shit show. Exactly. You
The,
you still go to places in Luanda, and there are 20-story buildings whose elevator stopped functioning 40 years ago, and it's never been fixed.
yeah.
And whose fault is that?
Well,
It's not the
obviously,
colonial power.
of course it is. And look at South Africa. They have drinking water problems. Now, South Africa always, a large amount of the drinking water South Africa had came from the sea. They desalinated the water, and it was drinkable water. It's not as if there's less sea out there, but somehow they're not able to feed their population drinking water anymore. Could it have anything to do with the fact that the Rainbow State now feels that positions need to be reflective of society? So if only 2% or 5% of the society is white, then obviously only 2% or 5% of the company is white. And so they fire all the white engineers that made sure that they had something to eat and drink. And they replaced them with black people who got replaced because they were friends of people in important places. But they have
And
no
the,
idea what
and
to
the new
do.
generation of engineers wonders where the witch doctor is getting his lightning from.
Yeah. Oh, that was so cringeworthy. Oh, you can't explain how that works. Yes, because it doesn't. I'm sorry, I can also not explain how 1 is the same as 224 and equally the same as snowflake. It, they're not the same. You can't explain something that isn't real. I can make a story about it, sure I can. That's not the same as explaining it. And then you've seen the video clip. Everyone must have seen that video clip. I don't have it here and I'm not going to look it up. But then there's a guy basically saying you can't do that. And there are people sitting in front, next in the panel. And one of the guys sitting in the panel, he cracks up laughing. He knows what they're telling is utter bullshit. But at the
Yeah.
same time, the guy who says that it's bullshit is getting berated. Because how dare you bring your colonial knowledge? It's
No, and at the same time, the girl was leading the panel. She was looking stuff up in an iPad.
yeah.
You'll have the witch doctor fix your iPad when it breaks down. Seriously,
Fix it. The fuck? Give back that
call for
iPad
Lightning to fix the iPad.
yeah, get a facsimile iPad based on magic. Go on then. No one knows how it works, but it's true. I have a crayon for you and a blackboard, and you can chalk things out. But it's so amazing, and we are being fed this bullshit. We're being fed this narrative. Oh, but this is real. Oh, but that's not real. Oh, patriarchy, huge problem in the Netherlands at this point in time. And I'm not kidding. They're actually telling building companies they have to stop building new houses, and we're no longer allowed to drive 130 kilometers, but we have to go back to 100 kilometers an hour on the highway because nitrogen. 80% of the atmosphere is nitrogen. It's always been around 80%. But now all of a sudden it's a problem. Why? Well, no, I mean, don't ask why, except that it is a problem and we need to fix it. What do we need to fix? Let's imagine we can take away 5% nitrogen out of the atmosphere. You know what will happen?
We die.
We die. Because, I mean, that 5% will either be filled with gases we don't like, or it will be filled with oxygen, and both of them are lethal to us.
Exactly. I actually remember this from sixth grade science, where the teacher was explaining to us the composition of the atmosphere, and we asked what would happen if the nitrogen wasn't there. Well, we'd probably die in. We'd still be able to live, but we'd probably die in 6 years because of excessive oxidation of the cells.
Yeah?
So we used to learn this in sixth grade.
Yeah. I mean,
But then we have politicians who seem to have never heard of it.
Yeah, but the cycle of carbon. Everyone knows about the cycle of carbon. Right up until the moment where we're going to blame carbon dioxide for global warming. And you know what? Is the world getting slightly warmer? Yes, it is. Not as much as what they claim, but it is. But at the same time, I still haven't found any plausible explanation on how CO2 is actually making the world warmer.
And
I haven't found anything.
In fact, about 350 million years ago, the world was hotter, but there was more oxygen in the atmosphere, which is how we got all those large dragonflies with a 90 centimeter wingspan.
Yeah.
that you see in those books about fossils.
Yeah.
So yeah, the world was warmer and there was more oxygen. So it's not exactly as related as people might think. We do know that that when oxygen was first released into the atmosphere, about 500 or 600 million years ago, that there was a quick cool down period. But the biggest influence on average temperature and the ice caps is the tilt of the Earth, which is not fixed. It moves between about 22 point something and 27 point something degrees, and the smaller it is, the hotter it is because there are fewer differences between seasons.
Well, yeah, there is that, and the circumference of the Earth. We're not really flying around the sun. We're chasing the sun basically. We're dragged behind it. But sometimes we're a little bit closer, and sometimes we're a little bit further. That also makes a lot of difference. And the sun itself doesn't have a constant burn. I mean, sometimes it burns a little bit brighter, sometimes it's a little bit less. All these things are incredibly nuanced.
Exactly. All we need is a sudden, unexpected gamma burst, and you're going to have radiation going through the ozone layer and killing everything on Earth.
Well, theoretically speaking, that could happen, yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, let's hope it doesn't.
Real Raven is saying that fat feminists are the cause of the Earth's tilt. When all fat feminists congregate in one place, the Earth moves. So speaking of fat feminists, let's try and get back to another couple of minutes of the video.
Yes, let's. That was an interesting talk, though. Let's
Yeah,
get
yeah,
back.
yeah. Let's try to get rid of this. I mean, otherwise we'll be here the rest of the month.
Yeah, I might not even continue to finish it. But poor people in the audience. It was Paulo's idea this time.
I think old white men, like, yeah, sure, absolutely. But when white women voted for Trump.
Oh,
So
I
it's
I
not-
have a
we
whole
can't-
chapter on them, I know.
Yeah, we can't, I think it's a bit more nuanced than just...
It's
we
ideology.
it's easy to just say,
Okay.
this one group. Anyway.
No, we've got many questions to get through, and this one sort of flows. The next question comes from Murray Saunder.
Thanks, Fran. When trying to bring about significant change, when is aggression and violence a better option than assertiveness, strong arguments, and modelling the behaviour you expect of others?
Ashton?
Okay, so when is violence acceptable? I'm just translating it here. Can we all agree with this translation of mine?
Mm-hmm.
When is violence acceptable? Now, Paulo, what would be your answer? When is violence acceptable?
Well, primarily for self-defense
I
or
agree.
for self-preservation.
Yeah, okay, so someone tries to harm you, you need to use violence to protect yourself. Okay, someone disagrees with you. Okay to use violence then?
No, of course not. You
Someone
already
says-
lost from a purely intellectual point of view. You've already lost the argument.
Yeah, so
And,
someone...
and if you can't have a civil discourse in civil society, then you don't belong in that society.
Yeah. So there is no. I mean, either it's self-defense, physical self-defense, or you shouldn't use violence. That's basically it, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Let's see what they have to say, as if we don't know.
When none of that other stuff works.
It's as simple as that?
Yep.
So when none of that other stuff works. So when can we use violence? When I try to convince you that I'm right and you don't agree with me. And that's when I get to use violence. Fucking hell. How is this not totalitarian? How is this not authoritarian? I get to use violence because I tried to convince you, but you didn't want to get convinced. So now I have to use other methods. It's like those old mafia movies. I've got an offer you can't refuse.
Nice story you got here. Be ashamed if something happened to it.
Yeah. And unironic. Unironic. Oh no, this is a good idea. Oh, when are we going to use violence? Well, when we don't get our way.
Yeah. If they don't understand what we want, we will make them understand.
Yep.
We will convince them of our peaceful ways by force.
Yeah, by force. We will teach them. Oh, I've seen that quote before.
Yeah, it's from that. It's not The Simpsons. It's the other show.
South Park?
In the future.
Futurama.
Futurama. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's possible. I can't remember where I got it from, but I've seen that one before. Brilliant. Thank you. Good timing.
I have a great answer for this that a lot of people do not like. I want patriarchy to fear feminism.
Okay. I want an idea to fear an idea. They're all based on fear. They're so hypocritical. But you have to be afraid. And if you don't fear me before this story, I will make up a different story. As long as you are afraid. It's yeah. Anyway, let her hang herself.
And there is a chapter in my book on violence. There is a chapter on my book about white women who voted for Trump and white women who accept crumbs from patriarchy because they allow their whiteness to trump their gender. I'm fully aware of this. But at the end of the day, even those white women have to recognize that nothing protects them from patriarchy. Nothing. For me, as a feminist, the most important thing is to destroy patriarchy. And all of this talk about how if you talk about violence, you're just becoming like the men. My question, so your question is a really important one.
Oh, wait a second. Because the question was, is it okay, or when is it okay to use violence? Her answer was, we really have to use violence. In my book, I will explain why we do violence. And now I'm going to tell you what your question was. But didn't you already answer my question? It's.
But I'm going to answer it with another question. How long must we wait for men and boys to stop murdering us, to stop beating us, and to stop raping us?
Yeah, because all women get murdered, beaten, and raped by all men.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no
There's no
serious
rule of law.
No, there's no serious thought about it. If you're a woman, you will be raped by your the men you know. And why is this so scary? Not too long ago, I think I mentioned this last time as well. There's an article on a woman, a girl who has been she's been a victim of sexual assault, and she had 3 kids, 3 boys, and she killed all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Because she was afraid that they would grow up to be rapists. And I mean, she's got a nice prison sentence, which she earned. Let's be honest. But at the same time, the article talks on how she's a victim, how it's not her fault because, well, yeah, look at what happened to her.
Yeah. Woman kills own children. Woman most affected.
Woman most effective. 3 kids dead. Because they might turn out to be rapists. Well, they might not turn out to be rapists. Well, yeah, but just, better to be safe than sorry.
It reminds me of something that they were discussing a couple of years ago in the honey badger stream, when there was always all of this concern about recovering the kidnapped girls, the girls that were kidnapped by Boko Haram in Nigeria, and there was no notice of the boys that had been murdered because they couldn't be used as sex slaves, and they would not be forced to, and even if they were alive, they would be forced to fight in their army. For those, there was no compassion.
Yeah, they would just get murdered. They don't count, but they're boys. So yeah, of course you worry about the girls. I never understood this, but it's constantly true. And I don't understand this. But it's people like this that make it so. All victims are women. All perpetrators are men. Always. Yeah, but 40% of the victims of domestic violence are men. No. All victims are women. All perpetrators are men.
And if men are the victims, they deserve it.
Yeah, they must have deserved it then. It's yeah, let's continue. But look at the face of this guy. As if he just heard something really smart. And I'm like, dude, seriously. And they don't get called out on that bullshit. I think that upsets me the most, to be honest. But yeah.
How many rapists must we kill? Not the state, because I disagree with the death penalty, and I want to get rid of incarceration, and I'm with you on the police.
So, how many men get to rape women, and how many men do we have to kill? Not lawfully, but despotic.
Or as
Basically,
revenge. This is a societal breakdown.
yeah,
The state must have no power to enforce laws, but we shall have the unimpeded right to murder as a form of revenge.
yeah. It's beyond Haida Renovatio. Yeah, but it's anyway. If it weren't for double standards, they had no standards at all.
So, I want women themselves. As a woman, I'm asking, how many rapists must we kill until men stop raping us?
So Mona, them's fighting.
So, how many female rapists will you kill before men stop raping you? Because that does happen too, you know. You smug. Oh,
Well, her answer is obvious. Women cannot rape.
yeah. No, women are always victims.
And even if women consent to have sex with men, they're still being raped.
Yeah, yeah. Therefore, women can't consent. And if the man lied on anything, I mean, if he talked about how his house was used or anything, and you consent because of that, and that's not true, then he raped you. Because women can't be responsible or something like that. Yeah, it's bah. And then women like this get positions on international television shows. Can you imagine that?
Word Spectator Australia is already saying Mona's promoting violence. That's what you're doing?
Well, what I'm doing is I'm saying that violence has been owned by the state. That violence has been given by the state to its police. That violence has been allowed to continue unchecked, mostly, by men, especially privileged men. So exactly how long do I have to wait to be safe? And
Okay,
when I
let me
say
ask
to
Murray-
be safe,
Murray,
there's
what
a
do you-
hierarchy of safety too.
Hang on.
Obviously, people of colour, disabled people, etc.
Murray, what do you think of that answer? How do you feel about
I
this?
guess there's two things. One is there's a lot of smashing and destroying.
Yes.
But what's the alternative? So
The alternative
that's
is a
one thing.
world where I'm not raped and murdered.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. That's a good start.
Can you imagine how incredibly whipped that guy has to be? Oh no, I agree with that. Yeah, no, let's start killing men because women, yeah. You still there, by the way, Paolo?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is too, if you think about bullying, bullying begets bullies. So violence begets violence is what I'm seeing. So
Let me ask. Let me bring. Sorry, Mona. Let me bring Jess in on that about the violence begets violence.
Well, it's interesting. I think if anyone's shocked by what Mona's suggesting, you just have to look back to history and a certain faction of the suffragettes in the early 20th century.
You know the ones that firebombed venues and created disruptions on the road, and those suffragettes.
And would publicly shamed men who did not voluntarily sign up to fight in World War One.
Yeah. I don't think those are very good examples of good societal behavior.
And of course, they were all of the upper echelons of society. They were not working women.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible.
They used violence. They thought what they were fighting was a civil war between the sexes. They smashed windows. That one suffragette actually went up to a young Winston Churchill in 1909 and whipped him with a horsewhip at a railway station. I mean, there was... Someone likes that. Winston Churchill did a lot of shitty things. That was...
Winston Churchill did a lot of shitty things. Wasn't he the one who led the English against the German, though? So I think he may have done something good as well.
For a faction.
This one's the one as a journalist, and for a supposed investigative journalist, she doesn't really know how to read her sources.
Yeah. But it's not the source, it's the story, it's the narrative. She's
Oh,
more interested.
excuse me. I just got a message from Ibai Canales here on Facebook. He says he'll be here in a few minutes.
Oh,
So
okay.
I guess we're gonna have him after all.
That's nice. Well, as soon as he comes, we can switch. But for the time being, we'll continue now because otherwise people are just waiting anyway. When a female teacher has sex with an underage male, she is still the victim. Yes, I know, Richard Bayer. How stupid is that? I mean, kids can't consent. Adults can consent unless the adult is a woman and the kid is a boy. And we all fall for it. We keep believing it. How many mothers of abused children must we kill before they stop raping them? Yeah. Yeah. Most children that die in home situations die by the hands of their mother. I guess we should just take every child away from every mother now to make sure that the child is safe. Will that work? It's
Or we need more fathers.
Well,
This usually happens in houses where there is no father.
that is true. We do need more fathers. But our society has forgotten that fathers have an important role. Scary. Anyway, let's continue.
A violent movement, and the only thing that stopped their militancy was World War One. You know, if it hadn't been for World War One, there's no telling what might have happened because they were fighting for their lives.
And World War One was
They were fighting for their lives. Feminists were fighting for their lives in World War One. Bloody hell! Did you forget about the white feather action? Indeed, trying to shame men to go to war.
violence.
Hang on,
World
Mona,
War One
actually-
is violence by men against men.
Mona,
Hang on 1 second. Let's have.
It's
Ashley
never
go.
the ideal. It's never the first thing to go to. But, you know, slave rebellions. I mean, there are many causes where people have resorted to violence as a way to finally break through and get heard and achieve what we need. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
If I can just jump in.
So, before the other one, if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. There's a different way of saying that, by the way. The end justifies the means.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there's ever a totalitarian scared story, then it's the end justifies the means.
It's actually kind of funny that they always they always seem to claim that if women were heads of state, if they were in charge of running their own their countries, that there would never be war.
Yeah, well, reality shows that that's not true.
Exactly. I mean, even in ancient Egypt, Cleopatra maneuvered the Romans into going to war. Mark Antony into going to war for her against both her brother and against the Roman Empire.
Yeah, and let's be honest, there have been some strong female characters in history. Tsarina Katarina from Russia, she was a very strong, powerful woman. What's the name? The Austrian queen? I forgot her name now. She was quite powerful. Look at Great Britain, who had been under a queen for quite a long time. But even Margaret Thatcher, who was Prime Minister in England.
Mm-hmm.
There have been plenty of stories of women in power going to war. Well,
Exactly.
there are less stories of women in power going to war than men in power going to war. Yes, because on average there are more men in power. But it's not as if there are only men in power. When women get in power, they too tend to go to war.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. But no, I mean, you as a journalist, you must have found stories like that time and again.
Yeah, I mean, there's been one thing that I've been having in the last few years was the need to have more women as in auto racing, because usually it's men who want to go racing cars. But in fact, the fact that women are so few is actually taken as an advantage, because there's always a novelty effect, and it's good for getting sponsorship. Even in the late 90s, when we had a bunch of Portuguese drivers trying to make it into Formula One, the most the most famous racing driver was a woman who raced in the Dakar in a truck. She had she had more advertising space than all the next five racing drivers combined. Um, Michel Mouton from France was runner-up in the World Rally Championship. And Sabine Schmitz is the most experienced driver in the Nürburgring. She won the race overall. So yeah, there's plenty of names in auto racing who get famous. Danica Patrick may not have been a may not have had as interesting career in NASCAR as she had in IndyCar, but she was fast. I actually preferred another IndyCar driver from Switzerland. She was from Switzerland, Simona de Silvestro, but she never managed to find the correct sponsorship. There were five women in the 33 car field in the Indianapolis 500. So yeah, I'm used to seeing women in male dominated fields having the even more opportunity and succeeding, and nobody says that they shouldn't be there.
No, but
So
that's the thing. I mean, I work in healthcare, so the field I work in is female dominated. Simple as that.
oh, hey,
So
Canales is here.
yeah, I
Hey.
know. Hi there,
Hello.
Canales. We're going to finish up with this one, and then we're going to start with the story we had hoped to start with.
Sure, no problem, guys. I have patience, if
Yes.
nothing.
Well, I mean, listen. If you want to join in, or sorry, join in. You are already joined in. If there's something you want to say, by all means, feel free. I mean, it's not that you're only here for one topic. If there's something else you want to say,
Thank you. No, I was just listening to you guys trying to ascertain what the topic of discussion was, but I think it's pretty clear. And yeah, I was going to agree with you. Please go on.
okay. No, but I mean, if I look at my line of work, women dominate, right? But nearly all, no, that's not true. All women that do this job, that are smart in the job, recognize that we need more men in my line of work. Because we work with psychiatric kids, and they need female role models and male role models to help them deal with certain things. And men solve different disputes in a far different way than women. Kids need both influences. It's not saying men are better, but they're also not worse. But
Well, I think since you asked me, I think that the influence on children, male and female wise, is complementary. Women can teach children things that men can teach them, and vice versa.
yeah,
But
so
you
you
know,
need both.
saying that a monoparental family can work only if the parental figure is female, that's kind of sexist. No.
No, I don't think mono parental families can work. Let's be honest. It's not that all of them fail.
Yeah. I mean,
But
they can work, but they don't work better than
no,
the average
And-
two-party
and-
family. You know.
At least 3 in 4 mono parent households fail.
Yeah.
75% at least. Some numbers go up to 90%. So yeah, no, you want to do everything you can to prevent having a single parent household. And that's a different thing though, because if you have a single parent household because one of the parents died, they have a far bigger chance to come out clean than because the parents divorced or the parents separated. And it's not so much that one parent households must fail. Because as I said, we've seen, for example, that where the father or the mother dies and the other parent stays alone with the kids, they can still be successful. Because not one of the parents left them for whatever reason. I mean,
Yeah.
dying is not the same as leaving. And
Yeah, you can I guess you can assume to with a certain degree of certainty that a parent that leaves his or her children is kind of a dick, and
Yeah.
that until that point he didn't really have too good of an influence on his offspring. You know?
Well, that's one way of looking at it, but let's be honest, in this current day and age, men often get forced to leave their children.
Oh
It's not
yeah,
that they
yeah.
want to.
No, and they get like shame into not interacting with their kids
Yeah.
because as we know, everything masculine is looked down upon on these days. I mean, my dad used to play rough with me, like used to mock beat me because he's a martial artist,
Uh huh. Uh
So
huh.
we would like mock spar when I was a kid, and he would always like not really hurt me, but he would fuck with me, He would
Yeah, he
like
will let you know
punch
that, hey,
me.
listen,
Yeah,
I
yeah. He
can
was
touch you.
really,
This, I
you
can
know
do
what I
this. I
mean.
can do
And
that.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no. But I mean, that's what they would do. They would, funny enough, they would show you where your weaknesses are
Yeah, exactly,
without actually hurting you.
exactly. So I don't see really many modern male, modern fathers doing that with their kids. They would be too ashamed, too afraid of being called like toxically male to do that.
Well, I don't want to brag, but we still rough and tumble in this house.
Awesome. That's perfect. That's the great way
Yeah,
to
well, the
raise
kid
kids.
needs it.
I mean, you're teaching them the most valuable lessons in life. Someone eventually, sooner or later, is going to fuck with you, and you have to learn how to deal with that.
Yeah. Oh, for fuck's sake. No, but no, you're correct, and it's weird that people consider it a negative thing to point this out, as if we pretend it's not there, it's not there. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
But it's a real issue. It's a big deal.
Well, I mean, I've noticed that a lot of teenagers and like pre-teenagers around me, maybe it's just Spanish thing, I don't know, but they're like not only dumb as posts, they're also strangely like autistic. Like they don't really know how to interact with their environment, and they just stand there with that dead look on their eyes, awaiting instructions. I work at a gym, like my dad, like my father before me, and I see a lot of these like 15-year-old kids that come and they ask you to teach them, but they don't really put anything from they just like stand there like waiting for instructions, as I said, and they don't really look like they really want to be there. They're like just okay, yeah, I'm here, whatever. I don't know. Know what I
Yeah,
mean? Does that make sense?
yeah. No, it does make sense because I see that a lot too. Kids don't even know who they are. But this is funny enough if you look at gender dysphoria, and I know this is one of my pet peeves, but gender dysphoria is high amongst kids with autism. Why is that? Because autists have no idea who they are. They have to fill an emptiness, and everyone tells them, "Oh, maybe you're in the wrong body."
Yeah, yeah,
And
I
enough,
can totally see that. I can
and
totally see that happening.
if enough people say that, then you start to believe it. But even if they change, and this is why gender dysphoria is such a problem, and transgenderism is such a problem, because even if you change that, yeah, fair enough, but you haven't addressed your emptiness. You haven't addressed the fact that you do not know who you are.
Well,
But
I
now
guess
you do
that's
not know who
one of
you
the
are in a
reasons why
different body.
post-operation transgender people have such a high rate of suicides.
Yeah, no, the high rate, the rate of suicide post op and pre op are roughly the same.
That means operations really don't fix anything
They
because it's
don't
a
fix
it's
a
a mental
thing.
issue. It's not a physical issue.
No, it's a mental one. And we're not allowed to say that. And you know, the thing is, I work, as I said, I work with people with autism, which is considered a mental disability. Having a mental disability doesn't mean you're less. It doesn't mean people should ignore you. It means you need help with a certain thing. And if you are given that help, you can do basically the same thing as other people can too.
Here's another funny story in which I'm going to mention my dad. My dad has like 80% deafness in one of his ears due to like when he was a kid, healthcare wasn't as good as it should have been here in Spain. So he had like an infection and lost like 80% of his hearing. And he then moved to Brussels with his dad. And in Brussels, no one ever mentioned that he was deaf. He just uh, gave him special attention. Like when he was in class, the teacher would tell him to, sit closer to the board so you can hear me. They
Uh-huh.
would repeat the lesson for him. Did you hear what I said? Listen to me. I'm going to repeat it for you. And that was it. And he always says that he didn't really realize how deaf he was until he came to Spain, and everyone began to mock his deafness. But until then, he was just another guy who
Yeah.
needed maybe just a little extra attention so he could get things, but nothing more.
Yeah.
He never felt left out.
No, but that's the whole thing, and that's the problem with these identity groups. They constantly turn the spotlight on something that is negative. They constantly turn the spotlight on something that
They
is
they don't
different.
they don't allow you to be anything else
No.
than your disability or
Yeah,
your
you
sexual
must
preference.
be a
That's all
victim.
you are.
You must be a victim. No matter what you do, you must be a victim. Yeah, I'm sorry, but if you must be a victim, then you can't be anything else. And if you can't be anything else, you're nothing.
You're just a tool for them to use, which is
Yeah.
what they're doing. They're using minorities, they're using women and transgender people as as Lenin said, useful idiots to achieve a
Useful
goal.
idiots. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's scary. Anyway, we wanted to talk about this clip. You, on if you look at the Hangout, you can see the video, and the guys will see. I will show the video to the stream as well. If you want me to stop it, just say stop. I'll try to
Okay.
stop it a lot because, man, she talks fast. I think it's Spanish, and I know you made a video about this one too. I think. So I'm curious where we will go with this one. Shall we start with this one?
Yes, please. I'll be happy to.
Okay, let's go. Transition and the black screen. The black screen of death. No, it's just the beginning of the video. Here we go. By the way, does anyone know from when this is?
I think if this is the woman I think she is, because I can't remember her name, this is probably from this year or the year before that. But this is pretty recent.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty recent too. But anyway, let's do it.
Profe, ¿de qué sistema crees que sería?
Hay que inventarlo. Yo sí tengo uno. ¿Cuál? La madre.
Okay, we need a new system. I think I know one. Okay, a matriarchy.
Yeah, this is the woman that I heard
And
about.
and,
Yes.
and we were talking before you came how in Italy and in Spain and in Portugal there is a matriarchy because women are the boss at home.
Yes, it's at least in my corner of the country here, up in Basque Country in the northern seaboard. This has always been a matriarchal society. It used to
Yeah.
be like that in all times, and it still is. It's a cultural heritage that we have.
No, no. My father is Italian, so I mean, I'm not. I'm half
Yeah,
Italian.
we can all remember like La Mama from the Italian movies. Like he
Indeed.
was the one taking the shots at home.
Yeah. I mean, if and you knew that grandpa would be the boss in everything outside of the house. But if
Yeah.
grandma said no, you just know grandpa would sit in his chair, lean backward, and said, "Well, you heard Nonna," and that's it. Grandma
Yeah,
said
no,
no, so it's not
that
gonna
that
happen.
was it. I mean, in case of my grandfather, he was the one bringing money to the household, but my grandmother would be the one making all the administrative decisions.
Yeah,
She was the pretty much the homeowner, like the business owner.
yeah. It's amazing, and then they are seriously considering that women are oppressed. Can you imagine what your grandmother would say to someone like that?
Uh, I can Well, my grandmother was always pretty leftist, so I can see her agreeing with her. with these people. But I've met women, real tough women, who are the breadwinners at home, who work in male environments, and I've seen them tell these other women to fuck off.
My my
They don't represent them.
my Italian grandmother, and I have fond memories of her, of course, but she died when I was around, what, 10, 11 years old. But she was a strong woman. And if a woman came to complain about how hard it was to be a
Yeah.
woman, she would say, listen, you complain about how hard it is? If there's going to be a war, I'm going to sit at home.
Yeah,
I'll be
because
alone.
again, is none of the business of people outside the household. I mean, I don't know when people decided that house disputes should be settled by the government. That's a pretty bad idea,
Yeah.
and I can think of dozens of reasons why, but I won't go into that now.
No, but you're correct, and this is where our society is being destroyed by the nanny welfare state.
Yep.
Anyway, let's continue with this piece of
Creature.
hypocrisy.
¿Y qué es eso?
En el poder de las mujeres.
Pero entonces, ¿la patria no son de tu país de origen?
No, pero este es otro concepto feminista, matria, sustituirlo. Patria, que viene del patriarcado, por matria de matriarcado.
So, and she calls, sorry, and she says it's I forgot the word now. I have to bring it back a little bit. Sorry, another feminist concept.
She's actually using the word motherland as opposed to fatherland, which is what patria means in Spanish.
Yeah, I know. And she puts it as each other's opposite. But a matriarchy and a patriarchy aren't opposites. The opposite of a matriarchy or a patriarchy would be individualism.
Yeah, but they're viewing it from the point of view of the war of sexes, by which men and women are opposites and not complementary, which is what they really are.
Yeah. So they're creating warlike divisions where they don't have to be, where they don't are. Where there is no.
Well, this is the ages-old Marxist trick, right? I mean, convincing people that other people that have more than you are actually stealing from you, and that they deserve to be punished. And they've shifted that rhetoric from workers and industrialists and capitalists to men and women, just because men work harder and get paid more.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's scary, because by doing that you also have to admit that someone is providing, and you're not that someone.
Right.
But you feel entitled to what they get for what they do.
Well, this is this this move that they're doing with our minds is old as life itself, because you can, like, they will always present themselves as these high and mighty intellectuals with brains the size of a cathedral, but they go down to Congo, and freaking Congolese people who don't know how to spell their names will understand the concept. You see your neighbor has a bigger house. Henceforth, he owes you a part of that house. That's easy to understand, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone understands that. You don't like people having more stuff than you do. It's easy for you to hate them, and that's what they use against us.
Well, it's kind of funny. Now, I'm not religious. I am an atheist. I'll not lie about that. But within the concept of Christianity, we have the 7 deadly sins. And it's almost as if, and this is, I'm not sure if Marx came with this, but it's almost as if what we once called the 7 deadly sins are now considered the 7 most important virtues. You have to be a victim. If you're not a victim, well, who cares about you?
You bring up an interesting point, and that is, I'm not exactly an atheist. I consider myself like an agnostic. I have an open mind because I've seen and heard a lot of weird shit, but I can appreciate people for being wise, and I think in older times people were wiser than we are. I mean, just because I don't believe in the same gods as I don't know, maybe Plato did back in the day doesn't mean that I can see the wisdom of what he's saying. And I think that the Christian lessons of, fighting the demons inside yourself, which was probably, the whole Satan and the beast and all, that's probably like a metaphor, you know.
Yeah, but you have that.
I
You have that in every religion.
Exactly. I think you can see the virtue of what you're saying. I mean, regardless of which god or gods they're worshiping, you can see the common points of wisdom in every religion, and this is what these people are going against. I don't think it's a coincidence that they openly oppose every religion.
No, I think you're correct on that one. It's weird though, and it's you can't call them out on their bullshit because that obviously means that you're a bad person. But the amount of rubbish they talk, it's interesting to say the least, but it's also scary.
Well, it's a spectacular display of mental gymnastics. I mean, whenever they begin speaking, and the somersaults and the contortions that they do, just to not admit that they're wrong. It's it's a sight to behold.
Yeah. Let's continue though. Let's see if.
El matriarcado y patriarcado son antónimos. Sí, sí, son de cierta manera patriarcado de los valores. Yo creo que los valores de la mujer no son.
Now this is something that you often hear. I believe the values of a woman aren't war.
Isn't it amazing how men and women are exactly the same and totally interchangeable, yet women have better values than men?
Yeah,
Isn't it amazing?
yeah. And am I like, but didn't you just a moment ago say that we have to do matriarchy, not patriarchy, because they are bad? We have to fight against it?
Yeah, I mean, how are they going to dethrone patriarchy anyway? Are they going to like whine on the street all the time? I don't think that's going to work.
No, but the fact that she's okay to overthrow something, isn't that in itself an act of war?
Well, it's the old paradox, right? By which the anti-fascists will beat the shit out of you just because you're expressing violent ideas.
Yeah,
They will be violent against you because they hate violence.
yeah. It's scary, and they do so. They're not even phased about it. They actually seriously consider themselves um, justified.
I think we can go back to what I said earlier about kids nowadays being like little robots that just stand there with no emotions in their face and like they're like just waiting for instructions. And I think that's how it shows
Yeah,
because they will do what the current authority will tell them to do, no questions asked.
yeah, yeah. This is, and you see this in so many things, not just feminism, but you see it in a lot of other Western leftist talking points. Uh, Patriarchy, matriarchy, the gender pay gap, environmental stuff. It's all the same lie.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
it's all communism at the core of it. I mean, it's all they're just repurposing communist rhetoric and applying to everything.
yeah,
Everything that is different from anything else is susceptible of being oppressor or oppressed.
it's yeah. Well, let's continue. I mean, she believes the value of a woman aren't war, and I want to remember people this one. I believe that the values of women aren't war, says the woman, and then listen to what she has to say next.
La guerra, ni la destrucción, ni el antiecologismo, ni siquiera el anticuidados. Quiero un mundo ecológico, un mundo no violento, un mundo no imperial, un mundo en contacto con la naturaleza. Si yo, el patriarcado, no es ni siquiera ganar perras para ser mejor que el vecino.
Okay, first, we're against all these things, war ecological war, inequality wars. Then the patriarchy is about making money. Okay, why do men want to make money?
Well, one would say that it's because it gives you access to a higher standard of living. But I'm pretty sure that this stupid asshole will say that it's for useless stuff like a sports car or like
Yeah, but
expensive clothes and stuff like that. I don't know.
it's even closer to home than that. You know why men want to achieve and produce as much as they can or earn as much as they can?
Oh yeah, because of the chicks.
To impress women.
Yeah,
And what happens when
yeah.
women start earning more than men?
Well, they can find a man who's good enough for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I heard that before.
And this is actually playing out as we speak. I mean, not too long ago, I think one of those American bullshit articles was like, oh no, women can't find suitable men because all the suitable men are already taken, and more men, they don't go to higher education anymore because they don't care about higher education. This is what you're asking for.
Yeah, no, what they mean is, as a woman, I'm still biologically driven to mate with a man of higher living of standard than me. But since I am the one with the highest living standard around, I can find a man, sorry, who satisfies my biological drive.
Yeah. So first they chase men out of the economy, basically, and then they complain that men are no longer in the economy.
Yeah, well, it's that's something that they do, right? I mean, they complain about ones that they create. I remember once the famous Spanish feminist. This is a real story, by the way. A famous Spanish feminist recognized me on the street because I have a YouTube channel and sometimes I do rebuttal videos and stuff. And she crossed the street and she began to berate me in public. I never even opened my mouth. I was like, I didn't recognize her at first. I was like, who is this person? Oh shit, it's this Spanish feminist. And she was complaining about how I was making her feel uncomfortable in public and how she didn't have time for my sexism and why wouldn't I leave her alone? I was like, you created this situation. I didn't even see you. It's insane. That's a feminist mentality for you.
Oh, okay. So I should know you. Who are you again? Well, you know who
Yeah,
I am. Not a clue.
I mean, I have this problem by which I don't recognize people if they are not in their usual environment.
Yeah.
If I meet someone from the gym outside the gym, I will have trouble recognizing because people for me are their faces and what's usually around their faces. And since this woman wasn't in a computer screen, I didn't know who she was at first. But she knew who I was.
Well, but that means that you are more important to her than she wants to admit.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was both shocked and flattered. Wow, she noticed me.
Yeah. Anyway, Paolo is being very quiet now.
No. I mean, just hearing you guys talk. I did help you set this up so that Canales could be here. So so this is more in his ballpark, and since he makes a few videos about this, and I thought it'd be an interesting change of pace to have him here. So, man, you can keep going. I ain't got no problem.
No, okay. Well, I mean, I'm always happy to have new voices. Well, to me, you are new. So yeah, more than welcome to our channel. If you want, I can put a link down to your channel as well. By the way.
Oh, absolutely. I mostly do videos in Spanish. I haven't done videos in English in a while, but I totally need to go back to that.
Well, yeah. But if you can, in a moment, just give me your channel and I'll put it in the description. I have your channel somewhere, so that's unfair of me, but I'm lazy now. I'm sorry. But
it's okay. I'm usually a lazy bastard when I'm not drawing. I don't have energy for anything else.
Anyway, let's continue with this fine piece of humanity. Oh, this is another thing that I find very funny. Sorry, I'm going to pause it. So she's complaining about the 90, 60, 90 women. Because good-looking women are bad. Now, men like to look at good-looking women, but men don't like to look at good-looking men. On average, it's Yeah, not something men care about. But here's the funny thing: women like to look at good-looking men,
I'm not
and
sure it's so much good looking as it is looking like he can protect and provide for you.
yeah,
And you know, a big muscular guy, yes, he looks like a provider, but if you know, most of the sex symbols out there aren't Channing Tatum or Jason Momoa. They're
yeah,
like Sean Connery or
yeah,
Cary Grant or George Clooney, which is usually like these suave, gentlemanly, obviously rich guys.
yeah, yeah, achieved.
Exactly.
But women like to look at good-looking women too.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct because I rarely see, you know, I'm kind of an expert in lesbian videos. Uh, I've looked at quite a few of them because of science, of course, and usually they're not all that bad looking either. You know, gay women seem to like to look at beautiful gay women.
Yeah, which is all kind of funny because here she's complaining about how men are only interested in 90, 60, 90 women, but that's something that men and women share with each other. It's not something that sets them apart.
Yeah, I mean, actually the 90 measures are really what's the word, like indicators of good health and fertility.
Yeah,
It's not something random. I mean, big breasts mean that you can feed a lot of children.
yeah,
Wide hips mean you can give birth. It's like when you put on your makeup as a woman, the red color in your cheeks, they mean health. They mean good,
good blood,
good blood,
good blood
good blood,
circulation.
blood flow. You know, all that. Like big eyes mean like health. I mean, don't not having dark rings under your eyes and all that. It's not really. I mean, they like to present it as something completely random, but in reality, it has a biological basis. And I
Yeah,
always say that
true.
patriarchy isn't the worst enemy of feminists. It's actually science and biology and reality.
Yeah, reality mostly. No, no, I like to think the worst enemy of feminism is feminism.
Yeah, yeah, because they tend to eat each other more often than not.
I mean, they're actually fighting with each other for not believing in the right religious doctrine. It
Oh,
is a religion.
all the time, all the time. And I remember, I don't know why he said it, but I remember that Jordan Peterson once said that when everything you believe is built up on contradictions, it's inevitable that sooner or later the believers are going to divide into warring factions, and this is what happens here.
Yep, which is indeed what's happening.
De vida más vinculada a lo que uno somos, a naturaleza, a ecología, a cuidados, a bondad, que esos son valores muy femeninos.
Now, I like the fact that she says bonding is a feminine value.
I wanna know, these are feminine values according to who? The patriarchy that has raised us to believe that men and women are different, and that women do and like and are one thing, and that men do and like and are another thing completely. Because that's what she's saying, right? I mean,
But she's also saying that men don't like to bond.
I don't know what bonding means because these people change the meaning of the words constantly.
Yeah,
What,
that's
what
true.
what is bonding? I mean, I remember that. I remember them saying that men will hire other men above women because they like to surround themselves with dicks. If that's not bonding, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Even on evolutionary terms, I remember on some Joe Rogan interviews, sometimes there's people talking about other societies, and the men are more cooperative than women, pragmatically, because because men in general need when we need to work in a group, we need to make sure that everybody is capable of working towards the same goal. So if there's a degree of competitiveness between men, is to make sure that everybody's on the same level in order to do something that is needed for the survival of the tribe.
Yeah.
But there was also another Another aspect was that in hunter-gatherer societies, the hunter who made the killing stroke, he would then be mocked by the rest of the tribe, so that he would not put himself above the tribe or above the needs of the tribe. So in that regard, there was more of an egalitarian let's bonding experience between men by being competitive and not allowing someone of clearly superior skill to attain a superior societal level.
I remember that that's something that my current employer, Zach from Diversity and Comics, mentioned about the Marines.
Yeah.
That they will routinely roast each other that amongst the Marines, and I assume among other armed forces, roasting each other is a healthy way of keeping people, with their feet on the ground.
Yeah, but it's also a form of male bonding.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. You know what? When best buddies always roast the shit out of each other. That's how it is.
Yeah, there's a cartoon, and I haven't seen it for a long time, and it shows a group of men sitting together and a guy coming or going away, and then the guys are like, "Hey asshole, hey bitch, hey blah
Yeah.
blah blah," and then when he's gone, they will say, "That's a good guy. I really like the guy. He's brilliant." And then there's a group of women, and one of the women goes away, and then, "Bye baby, bye good girl, see you next time," and then the girl is away, and they're like bitching on that girl,
Yeah, I remember that, and that's
and
absolutely true.
and it's
It's
true.
absolutely true.
So if you want to talk bonding, you want to take male examples, not
Did
female
you guys
examples.
hear about this female executive from the BBC who defected from the company and built her own broadcasting company, exclusively manned, I guess, by women, by and for women?
No, I didn't
And
know about that one.
yeah, this is I wish I had a link for that, but if I remember correctly, she hired only women for every position, and she thought, like a good feminist from the BBC, that it was going to be like a utopia of bonding and cooperation and peace. And after a few months,
Yeah,
she
that's
had to
that's
close down the company because she said that she had never experienced so much backstabbing and
yeah,
gossiping and stress, and it
yeah,
was living hell.
yep. And I'm like, who is surprised about this?
Not me, not me.
Yeah,
I
not
haven't
me
had many
either.
girlfriends in my life, but I have enough to know, how the female mind works. I'm afraid. I'm sorry to say it like that, but male and female brains don't really operate the same, as far
Nope,
as I know.
nope. Very huge differences. Let's continue though. Let's continue. And these are feminine values. How are they feminine values? She claims a lot of stuff, but she explains nothing.
And I find it hilarious that she says that the typically patriarchal values associated with women are true when they benefit her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I said this because we were talking about the Q&A one from ABC, and this is the one thing that I always find amazing when we're talking about feminists. They only have double standards, but
Yeah,
they have to have double standards, otherwise they have no standards at all.
absolutely.
A lo mejor el mundo sería diferente. El problema, la implantación. ¿Cómo lo implantamos? Yo tengo una idea. Castración selectiva.
So remember this person who was talking about war being a negative thing? She
Yeah,
now
and,
has no
war,
problems
war
of
is
using
really
physical
ugly, but
violence.
shipping people into cattle wagons and forcibly operating upon them, that's completely fine. You know?
Yeah, that's not violence. That's not war. No.
Now, it's not going to be a war unless they resist, right? And why would they want to resist?
Yeah. But this is communism one on one. Oh no, we come here to do good for you.
So just please step into the gulag peacefully.
Yep.
¿No quiere que se levantó para arriba, no? ¿Cómo que castración? Lo ofendo. ¿Cómo que castración? Sí, digo selectiva, ¿no? Pero profe, si estás diciendo que no la Te dije que el problema era la
See, even a student recognizes. You said there would be no violence. Yeah, no, but if there's a law that says it's okay, it's not violence.
Yeah, I love that. I love that from progressives. It's not the act in itself which is bad. It's only the definition.
Yeah, which goes
It's
back to the Australian discussion about when the pink-haired one was going that the state shouldn't have power to murder the man. It should be the women as a revenge.
Yeah.
So now this one once the state said that's a law that castration is okay. So it's only when it's convenient.
Yeah, it's not a problem when it's in our favor. It's a problem when we disagree, but when we agree, it's not a problem.
double standards or not, no standards at all.
Yep.
plantación. El problema, no digo que sea bueno. Pero el fin justificaría aquí los medios. Salvar el planeta justificaría.
And there it is. That's the battle cry of every genocidal maniac in history.
Yeah.
At last.
Yeah. Why am I doing it? To create a better world. Once I've done this, we will have a... Hell, we just had the adventure movies where Thanos killed half of the world. Why?
Exactly.
To make a better
doesn't
world.
that justify saving the universe? Just, I just kill 50% of people everywhere. Thanos is a perfect example of a social justice warrior villain in screen. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, that was redundant. Because social justice warriors are all villains, always. Fucking maniacs.
But that's the thing, though. They're perfectly all right with doing violence to you. There's nothing wrong with doing violence to men. Men are expendable throughout history. Men have been expendable. But
Yeah,
how-
because patriarchy is right about men and women when it suits me.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Castrar al 25% de la población. ¿A qué está diciendo ella que no? Pues que nosotros nos cortan el clítoris y no pasa nada. El nivel de lo que podría ser y es problemas de implantación, o sea, hacer que los hombres dejen de gobernar para que nos den el poder a nosotros. Voluntariamente.
So, women need to be in power. Men need to stop governing so that women can be in power, so they can make laws to castrate men.
Yeah, because if it's legal, it's right. That's all there is to it. Because since we're like, fucking lunatics, we don't have standards, we don't have moral principles. As long as the government authority tells me that it's right, it is right.
Yep.
This is why these fucking assholes would have been in the Nazi party if they had been alive in the 1930s era of
Well,
Germany.
in all fairness, I'm not sure when she would be a Nazi or a Bolshevik. Because let's be honest, the
Was
Nazis
there,
weren't good.
was
but-
there a difference between them? Because to me, they
Yeah,
were
there
the
was.
same shit.
Yeah. The Bolshevik caused fascism in Italy, and the Bolshevik caused the Nazis in Germany. They were reactionary forces to the Bolsheviks trying to take over. The Bolsheviks were violent socialists, but fascism is also based on socialism. But it was a response to the violent fascists. Funny enough, the violent Bolshevik fascists. Bolshevism did what the Black Bloc Antifa is doing now. They go out on the street and attack random people. And they did this in Italy, and this caused fascism to start in Italy because the civilians, the people, because it wasn't the politicians that stood up, it was the people that stood up, and they had enough, so they started fighting back. And then eventually Giovanni Gentile and Mussolini got into that movement as well, and Mussolini became the political leader of that movement. And then when journalists started complaining about the violence of the fascists against the left-wing politicians, Mussolini basically said, listen, when they did this to us, no one complained. But now we're doing it to them and it's a problem? You call it a problem, I call it payback.
I'm not one to usually agree with fascism because I'm not a socialist at all.
No,
But,
yeah, I agree. Both,
what I'm going to say is that fascism was it was a rebound effect.
yeah.
Leftists, and it's happening now. I mean, the wave of extreme right-wing politics that the leftists like to complain so much, it's just a response to leftist violence and idiocy. This is why Trump, and this is why here in Spain, the Vox political party, nothing to do with the online magazine of the same name, uh, they were nothing 2 years ago. They were just a fringe minority group. Now they're the third most powerful political party in the country.
Yeah, look at
And
AfD.
this is just the leftists doing it to themselves.
Yeah, now look at AfD in Germany. Look in the Netherlands, Forum for Democratie and PVV. Look Italy with Grillo, which is 5-star.
Yeah.
We see, and the funny thing is, everybody pretends that these people are right wing, and they're called right wing, but they're still not right wingers. They still, in a lot of concepts, they are left wing, but they want to protect their society. So I wouldn't call them right wing. I would call them maybe
what I
more
really don't
conservative.
like is, yeah, sorry.
I wouldn't call them right wing. I would call them more conservative.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about Vox, that they're not really national socialists, which is what it's really necessary to be considered fascist. They're more like liberal conservative, and they actually, as far as I know, they want to lessen the influence of the government, which is a really libertarian conservative thing to do. They want to like minimize the government. They want to return to the people the power to own guns, which is something that the Spanish government denied us at least since the years of Franco. And
guess why?
yes, they are conservative. They are against gay marriage. I don't really agree with them. I agree with them with more or less in about 50% of what they say. The problem for me would be that they would turn socialist, because I'm an individualist libertarian at heart. I just want to be left alone. Those are my politics.
Yeah.
This is why I don't really like socialism.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I agree. And the thing is, if I look at myself, I don't care. I don't care where you come from. But if you want to live in this country, then please learn the language, obey the laws, and earn your living. Don't come here to talk your own language, ignore what society wants you to do, and mooch off the system. Because that's not being part of society.
Yeah, the way they paint capitalism is like this soulless machine that eats up people and that then spits them up. But in reality, if a capitalist only wants to earn money, he or she will hire the person more suited to the job, indifferent from their race, sex, beliefs, or whatever. You just want the right person for the job, and that's probably the most egalitarian system there is.
Yep. And socialism, any form of socialism, is inherently totalitarian and destructive.
Yeah, because you have to force people to work and live and think in a certain way. Sometimes it's for the good of the workers. Other times it's for the good of your nation and your people. But in the end, it's the same thing. You always have a gun trained to your head and someone telling you what to do. And that's what I don't like.
Yeah, I guess that's the biggest difference between socialism and fascism or national socialism. The national socialism version or the fascist socialism version does recognize family as an important building block of society, whereas in socialism doesn't even consider family as important. The individual is all that matters as long as the individual does what the state requires it to do.
Yeah, they want a society of totally interchangeable individuals.
Yeah.
Everyone is atomized. They don't have families. They don't have friends. You're utterly alone, but you're always useful to the party or to the industry.
Yeah.
And that's, it's like 1984. You don't really have friends because anyone can rat on you at any time.
Yeah.
You don't have family because even your kids rat on you. You're not allowed to have sex. You're not allowed to fall in love because that would hamper your productiveness to the state.
It's pretty scary, and this is what they want.
Yeah, no, it's obedient workers, as George Carlin put it. Obedient workers. That's all they want.
Yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
¿Van a hacer? No. La castración selectiva. Sí, pero que se van a oponer. No, al nivel del que ustedes lo van a hacer, no, porque ellos nada más nacer. Ustedes saben que.
So, when you do it immediately after their birth, the baby is just born, and this is the time when you castrate them.
I wouldn't let this woman go anywhere near 10 miles of a child.
Yeah.
I don't know why she's teaching. I hope she's not teaching anymore. But
Yeah, I'm
look
sorry.
at her. She's happily fantasizing about mutilating babies in the crib, like they used to do in the 17th century Italy.
Yeah.
This is fucking insane.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think she's still teaching, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, this is Spain, so it's not surprising. Country
Yeah.
of fucking idiots.
Yeah, I think one thing we have in common is that it's nearly impossible to fire a public servant.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something seriously wrong with that, to be honest. But yeah, that's a whole different discussion.
Existe la figura de los castrati en música. Pero si los castras no pueden tener hijos, no pueden tener hijos. La población. Es verdad, no pueden tener hijos.
Okay, so the population would disappear and the world would end. In all fairness, that's a little bit hyperbolic because even if you castrate 50% of all men, that doesn't automatically mean there will be less children born.
I think somehow she has realized that a world ruled by feminists would there's no other way that it would end that in the apocalypse, because it's already happening.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't castrated men, and our birth rates are already decreasing.
Yep.
And we will be extinct in a bunch of generations. So
Yep.
I think somehow she understood that.
Mm-hmm. It's scary though, because this is absolutely what they stand for. And then at the same time, they say we need to open the doors and let people from Africa and the Middle East come because we don't have enough people anymore. So at one point you're destroying your own society, and then you want to pour in lots of people from other societies that don't fit in your society, which will destroy your society even further.
And rape you en masse, I might add. It's something that has happened several times here in Europe.
Yeah, look at Sweden, for fuck's sake.
Yep.
Sweden has higher rape numbers
it has happened
than
here in
Congo.
Spain too a couple of times already. Spain is becoming like Sweden.
Really?
Yeah. We have a couple of cases. Last summer one happened not too far away from where I live, where five Arab migrants, legal, I might add, raped a girl, all five of them. And then another case more recently in Manresa, which is somewhere in Catalonia. Yeah, this is becoming more and more frequent here.
It makes you wonder. I mean, I don't want to advocate for violence. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to advocate for violence. But whatever happened to the rule of law?
Well, you are not allowed to defend yourself here in Spain. I remember the case of an old man who had his home broke into by I think they were like Eastern European thieving commando, so to speak, one of these repurposed militias that have no purpose anymore, so they just steal stuff from older people and like farms and stuff like that. I don't know if you have stuff like that in the US, but here it happens, like Russians and Serbs and stuff like that. So they broke into this old man's home. They tied him up, tied his wife up. They tortured his wife by breaking her fingers with a door. And somehow, because they wanted to know where the money was. And somehow he managed to unshackle himself. He grabbed his gun, for which he had a permit. It was a sports gun. He shot one of the thieves. He killed him, and now he's in jail. He's like 80 something and in jail for killing a thief in self defense.
That is scary though, and it makes you wonder why they get away with this shit. See,
because we are supposed to disappear. If you ask me, we're as Europeans, as a civilization, we're supposed to disappear and be replaced by I don't know, dumb African and Middle Eastern people who will work for a fraction of what we charge, something like that.
Uh-huh.
But I've gone full Alex Jones there. Sorry.
Yeah. Michael Keller asked in the chat, why were the students so tame? No one speaking out against her.
Because this is Spain. We don't have a culture of standing up against assholes.
And in all
Thanks for
fairness,
asking.
some of the students did stand up from what I've seen in this story. But yeah, they stood up politely. I mean, what this woman needed was someone stand up, say, "Hey, listen, you're talking violence." But
I'm afraid Spain is a deeply socialist country, and this is a cultural thing.
yeah,
The U.S. glorifies the lone wolf, the rebel. It's a country built on the fact that a bunch of farmers and ranchers and fishermen stood up against an empire because they didn't want to pay more taxes.
yeah,
And that's what the U.S. is built upon, that ideal. Spain, you know, we've been gangbanged by everyone. We were gangbanged by the Romans, then we were gangbanged by the Moors, then the French. Then Napoleon sent his little brother to rule us, and there was like this an attempt at rebelling. But we have never been a rebellious people. We've always been like tame and gregarious and complacent.
not enough Germanic blood in you.
No, we used to be Celtic. We used to be like
Yeah,
Irish,
I know.
something like that. And now we're like, eh, who knows what we are.
Yes.
To be honest, the Germanics were no better. The person who invited the Moors to invade the Iberian Peninsula was a Visigothic duke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
true. That's
that
true.
is true. I know.
Well, Germans aren't too good without other orders either, right? I mean, they're kind of robotic, if something like
Yeah,
that.
no, I mean, don't get me wrong. You're correct. No culture in Europe deserves a free pass because we all have good things in our history. We all have bad things in our history. But the funny thing is, you're only allowed to remember the bad things, and you're not allowed to talk about
Oh
the good
yeah,
things. I mean, I made a video not too long ago about Poland's Independence Day celebration, and people are using the fact that Polish people celebrated independence as, yeah, but see, these people are fascists because they're nationalistic. And I'm like, no, they're nationalistic because they care about their country.
I don't know why it's wrong to love your cultural heritage, and that's something good that I
Yeah,
will say about the Basques. The Basques really like their language and their culture and their heritage.
yeah,
And yeah, some people have accused us of being national socialists, but since we were at odds with General Franco, who was an actual fascist, we get a free pass. But yeah, I mean, we used to be like hardcore, almost like the IRA, something like that. You know what I mean?
uh-huh. Yeah. But at the same time, recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of your society are important. And if I take Poland as example, well, Poland is bad because they didn't take in any refugees. Yeah, but they took over 2 million refugees from the Ukraine. Yeah, but they don't count. Why not?
Because they're white.
Because they're white.
They,
But there's a
they're
civil
not the
war in
poor
Ukraine.
brown and black people that we need to feel sorry about.
Yeah. But I mean, Germany actually tried to forbid Poland to allow in Ukrainian refugees. Because of Germany, other European countries are not taking in Ukrainian refugees. But we are
So
taking.
they don't really care about the
No.
refugees. They don't really care about the plight of poor and or downtrodden people. They just want more people of X race or X nationality here in Europe for whatever reason.
Yeah, and nobody knows the reason, but I think you're correct, and it's scary. But it's well, this is a completely different story. And the first time I heard it, I was like, yeah, that's a conspiracy theory. But what was it? Agenda 21 or something?
Yeah, I think I
I,
heard
I,
about that.
I don't have it. I don't have it right now. But about the replacement migration to Europe. And the first time I heard about it, it was like, yeah, no, that's not true. But there are actual articles about it on the UN's homepage where they
Well,
actually say this is
you
what we
see
want.
people from HuffPo and the Guardians saying why replacement theory is actually good.
Yeah,
And you're like, this was supposed to be a conspiracy theory. This wasn't supposed to be real. And
yeah.
then you see actual journalists defending it.
But if you go to the United Nations homepage, you will find articles about it. How they talk about this is what we need to do. So you can't say it's a conspiracy theory because the people who are being blamed for it are actually saying, "Yep, that's what we're doing." It's
Yeah,
the
I
same
think
with
I think I think
feminists.
you mean the Kalergi plan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the
The
Kalergi
Kalergi
plan.
plan, right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
that used to be. I remember I had this friend. I still have him. Thank the gods. Who he was really big into conspiracy theories back when we were in college, and he will tell me all these crazy things about the Illuminati and the New World Order and all that, and I would laugh at his face because he was so insane. And I'm not laughing anymore because
And that's the
I'm
thing.
seeing it happen before my eyes. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is happening right now.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Because I didn't believe it either. And then you start reading, and okay, well, Alex Jones says this. Oh, there's something on that website. There's something on that website, and I'm like, you know what? It could still be a conspiracy theory. Fair enough. And then someone points me to the United Nations homepage, where they actually talk about what they're doing. And then you
Yep.
can't say this isn't a conspiracy theory. They're actually doing it. It's the same thing. Europe will not have its own army. Yes, Europe will have its own army. No, it's conspiracy theory. Europe will not have its own army. Oh, and by the way, could all European countries pay some extra money because we have to organize this group of military men?
Yeah, we're not just calling it an army.
Yeah,
We're
we just
calling it a peace force.
peace force, police actions. Incredible. But the reality of things goes so fast sometimes. It's and people are completely behind it. They don't even know it's happening.
Well, because they've been, to quote Besmanov, they've been utterly demoralized. They
Yeah,
can't tell right from wrong anymore. I mean,
yeah, that's
it's
true.
as this person is saying. I mean, well, if we kill like what if we kill a ton of children? Well, we'll save the world, and isn't that worth it? No, no, because that's wrong. There's things that you don't do because they're wrong, regardless of how good the end is.
Yeah,
That's
and
called having principles, which is something that people don't have anymore.
no, and then you get back to sorry. Then you get back to um, how do I say this? The road to hell is paved with good intentions,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean,
people.
it's what Sargon said about the socialists. They're only just one kill away from utopia.
Yep, and they've always been that way, and they've always been that way. And you're not allowed to say it. You're not allowed to notion it, mention it. How dare you? That's a conspiracy theory. Yeah, but
How
they're
dare
actually
you?
killing people. Yeah, but more people die under capitalism. Yeah, but the reason more people die under capitalism, because it's partly true, is because more people live under capitalism. And
The
everyone who lives
capitalism doesn't
eventually
straight up
dies.
murder them like communism does.
Kijk, now, capitalism doesn't murder people. Socialism, communism does. But yeah, no, that's not what they want to hear. But that's the reality of the thing. It's it scares me sometimes, especially this is a college teacher.
I think this is a high school teacher. I think her students are like 15, around 15 years old, something like that.
Yeah, well, I feel sorry for those kids.
Oh man, I went to my old college. I went back to my old college. I think it was last year to shoot like a really short movie with a friend that was still working there, and I was surprised at how militant the fine arts faculty had become. It used to be like really flower powery and hippie when I was there back in 2006, something like that. And the last time I saw it, it was covered in like really combative, violent slogans like "end capitalism," "kill all business owners," "destroy patriarchy," "mutilate, kill, maim, eat the rich." I was like, dude, what else happened here? This is
Yeah,
like a skinhead club now.
But you're not supposed to mention that. You're not even supposed to notice that.
No. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. We're raising a generation of psychopaths, but
Yeah,
everything's fine.
everything's fine. Anyway, let's continue onwards a little bit. We are over the 2 hour marker now, people. I'm sorry. I usually try to end at 2 hours.
Okay, I'll shut up now. I'll shut up now.
No,
Too
that's
much anyway.
I'm not even sure if we should continue this one. Do you think there's going to be much more interesting stuff from this one?
I saw it all, and that's pretty much. She goes on for like 3 or 4 minutes more. So yeah, I think at the end when she got called out on it, she argued that it was all satire, that it was just a novel that she was writing, and that it was like a experiment, which is like what they always do, like with the
Yeah,
scum manifest.
but when a kid is making memes because he's edgy, that's dog whistling. But when they do it, well, it's only a joke. It's
Yeah,
only a
the Joker movie is certainly going to cause a mass incel uprising, but this person here teaching kids calling to violence because people are born in a certain way, that's completely fine.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, in that case, I'm going to stop with this video because it is upsetting. I like the fact how people are talking about the Joker movie being an incel movie. I mean, I've seen the movie. I think it's a good movie. It's a
Yeah, no,
good
I
movie.
love the movie. I think it's one
I
of the best
won't
movies
say
I've
it's
seen recently.
It's not a great movie, but it's a good movie. I don't see incel. I don't see racism.
The thing is that it's a movie that suggests that straight white people can rebel and can fight the establishment if you fuck with them too much. And that's a message that we don't want people to hear. Only black people, only gay people, only minorities are allowed to say, fuck this shit, I'm fed up, I'm going to fight the system.
Yeah.
Because they are the useful tools to the new world order. The whites are no one needs a white man.
No,
Because
but
they're I'm sorry to say that, but they're probably the best the best species that the humankind has produced so far. I mean, objectively.
well, I mean, to me, all humans are humans. There is only one human race
Yeah,
as
no,
far as I
I'm not.
care.
I don't want to say that anyone. I don't want to get sound out supremacist, but I think we can all agree that white countries are the best countries to live in.
Well, yeah, you can say they aren't, but then why do everyone wants to go there?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. I mean, white countries are supposed to be like racist hellholes, and yet everyone wants to go there. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, because they aren't. I mean, if they are indeed as bad as people say they are, then people wouldn't want to go there. But people do want to go there. So they can't be as bad as people say.
Yeah, I'm confused about that. I mean, I don't know why they try to make. Yeah, I know why, but I don't know why they try to make. They've started a fight. I always say this. I didn't really care about race or gender or sexuality until these fucking idiots made me care. And they try to play with stats and numbers and data, and if they want to play that game, they're going to lose because if we look at the data, the majority of white countries are the safest countries to live in, the best countries, the less racist countries. So they probably shouldn't have started that fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm looking for an old poem, and I can't. I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere, but I'm going to see if I can find it again, because this is the problem. To me, this is the problem we're facing in the West. It's a poem by Rudyard Kipling. You know what? I'm going to share it so that people can see it. The people in the Hangout can already see it, but the people following this stream can't. So I have to do this and then that, and then it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? There we go. There we go. But this poem, and it's an old poem. It's by, well, it's not that old, but it's an old poem.
Well, there's a reason why SJWs hate Rudyard Kipling as well, right?
Yeah, Well, I mean, the more I read, the more they hate everyone because there's no way for anyone to conform to their stupidity.
Oh
But
well,
this is,
they're a death hate movement. That's all they do.
yeah,
They hate stuff and they destroy stuff.
and I have used this poem in previous streams as well. I don't really care about menofthewest.net. It's purely because this is where I could find this poem because I couldn't find it on my computer. But this is it. The white man, which to me is bullshit anyway, because there is no one sort of white man. I mean,
Yeah, it's,
yours,
it's what I said about the Spaniards, right? I mean,
yeah,
we have been crossed with so much people that I don't think you can say anyone is really white in Spain.
yeah. And I don't care about skin color. To me, it's culture.
Yeah,
You're either,
absolutely. Yeah, it's. I always say that yes, it's totally a cultural problem, not a skin problem.
yeah,
There's a saying in Spanish that says that the cow doesn't belong to where he's born; he belongs to where he eats
yeah,
or it eats.
yeah. And to me, it's. I'm really scared because we've seen 2 world wars, and the Second World War is basically this. And the way things are going now. If I look in France now, if I look in Great Britain now, people are standing up. If I look in America, people are standing up. They are getting enough of this left-wing rhetoric, which
Yeah,
calls
we're
them.
at the gates of a culture war. This is no different of what was happening in Russia in 1917, by which first they had a cultural revolution, by which they changed people's minds and drove them to the posterior to the civil war that happened later.
Yeah,
I think they're trying to do that at a global scale.
I fear so too. But I'm afraid that um, the people that will end up fighting are the ones that want to go back to nationalism. Not ethno nationalism. Don't get me wrong. Not ethno nationalism, but nationalism. People who want to say, I'm from this country and this is why I'm proud and I want to help this country be better. It's not me wanting to destroy other countries, no, but I want to help my country be better.
I think countries are like people, and each one has its own personality. And trying to destroy a country's personality, I will concede that countries and cultures die on their own.
Yeah,
They become extinct because of whatever. But just like people, you can't just hope to destroy a culture or to destroy a people because that's straight up murder.
yeah. And by the very measurements that the United Nations put on what a genocide is, the Western world is being genocided. By the very organizations we created to make the world safe. And
Well, I think
that's,
it's a case of a government becoming too big and too powerful and wanting to self-perpetuate no matter the cost.
yeah. Yeah, and I fear for the. I've said this often in my streams, and a lot of people here will obviously recognize me having to say that. See you later, Ludicrous. By the way, sleep well, mate. Um, but yeah, I fear what the future may hold, because I can easily see a revolution starting.
Yeah, I mean, violence has already erupted in the streets in the U.S. I always say that the U.S. is now experiencing what we have experienced in Europe years ago.
Oh
I
yeah.
can really think of many urban protests in the U.S., but we have a fair share of those here in Europe.
Well,
And
in
now
all
the U.S. is
fairness,
becoming like Europe to some
if
degree.
you look at what's happening in Portland now, that's
Yeah.
very reminiscent of what happened in pre-fascism Italy.
Mhm.
This is how fascism in Italy got started, because the Bolsheviks started attacking people on the street who were not even politically engaged.
Yeah, I mean, they will attack anyone with a red hat. It doesn't even have to be a MAGA hat anymore. It just has to look like one.
But I mean, I've seen them. I've seen them, for example, directing traffic, basically telling people you're not allowed to go this way. Why not? Because I say so. And that there is no political motivation behind it. It's merely because I want to be the boss.
Yeah, I always say that SOCJUS, as I call it, social justice, has become a haven for psychopaths and control freaks.
Yeah.
They're just insane people who like to bully and humiliate and control others, and have seen a perfect opportunity in social justice. This is why
Yeah.
so many feminist ally guys turn out to be rapists and psychopaths.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is true. This is true. And this is scary. But before we start all over again, guys, we are reaching 2.5 hours, so I'm going to call it quits. I think people have stopped watching already. Well, some of them anyway, unfortunately. But then again, this channel never has been that huge. I am trying to make it bigger, so if you can help me with that one, that would always be welcome. Paolo, do you have anything you wanted to say before I close the stream?
No, no. Canales, I hope you had fun coming here.
I had a great time. Thanks for inviting me.
Excellent, man.
You're more
Because
than welcome.
yeah, the channel here it was an outgrowth of Modwain's channel. So and this version hasn't been rising in subscribers. So but we have a lot of intelligent conversation here, and I think it's a shame that not more people that we don't have more people watching. And I think this is an important conversation to have. And we usually don't have this concern about what's going on in Europe as appearing in all the American and the British channels. So so if we can get more people involved, it's always a good place to share ideas.
Yeah. And do you want to say anything to end up? Um, I'm sorry, I forgot your last name now.
Mine?
Yeah,
Canales.
Canales. Because
Canales.
I want to say Ibai.
Oh yeah, and that's a good pronunciation of my name. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So, but I didn't know whether you want to be used talked to by your first name or your last name. So, but I forgot.
Yeah,
Canales.
people usually call me Canales. Even my parents call me Canales now.
Okay. Why?
I don't know. People began calling me Canales when I was in art school. I think it was this teacher guy who invited me to take part on his short film. He referred to people by their last names, and he referred to me as Canales once, and somehow that stuck, and everyone calls me Canales now.
Okay, because I mean, Ibai is also a good name.
Yeah, and by the way, Ibai is a gender neutral name here in Basque Country, just so you know, because we're progressive like that.
Yeah, we have a few of those names as well in the Netherlands, but they're not gender neutral. Only words have genders. People have a sex.
Good. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Thanks for the correction. You're completely right.
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed yourself here.
Oh yeah.
And I would like to openly invite you that if you want to join again, by all means, feel free to let me know.
I will be delighted to. I mean, it's 2 a.m. here, my time zone. So yeah, I had a great time. So if you have a spot free for me again, just let me know, and I'll be happy to join.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Don't hang up the hangout, because after the hangout, I will give you our Discord server. It's not very active, but it's maybe a good way to reach you.
Yeah, sure.
If there's anything ever. And I would like to thank all the people who came and joined us. Renovatio, Richard, Michael, Ludicrous already left us. And I hope to see you all next time. And this is where I push the buttons, and now the end stream should have